Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a good night. I am here to talk to you about bipolar disorder and how misunderstood it is here in America as well as everywhere else. Um, so, my mother always says, "Well, you just went crazy when you were 15 years old." And she's kind of right. I actually, it was when I was 17, so she's a few years off. But at that time, some symptoms of mental illness started coming out, and I would do things like staying gone for 3 days, just being really impulsive. I started doing things that I shouldn't have been doing, like drinking, taking drugs if they were offered to me, things like that. It caused a lot of problems in my life, and I had no idea why. I was not able to explain any of it. So, after doing a lot of research, I've decided that a lot of people need to know what this is and how to help people who have it. Because it wasn't until 10 years later, actually last year, that I was actually diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And I even had to go to my doctor and tell them that this is what was going on with me. So, um, in one of my journals, it is taken from the NIH website. It says patients with bipolar disorder experience recurrent episodes of pathologic mood states characterized by manic or depressive symptoms, which are interspersed by periods of relatively normal mood. And what this means is there are episodes that go from being manic to being depressive. And in between those, after a depressive episode is over or a manic episode is over, you can be completely fine. And it doesn't feel like there's anything wrong. In fact, it's actually kind of hard to remember what it felt like when you were in those episodes. And only 4% of the population is diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and I believe this is what causes it to be less understood. Is It's not as common as other things. So the first type of bipolar disorder is bipolar 1, which is what I've been diagnosed with. And it is characterized by having mania for at least 1 week. Also, it can be characterized by having psychosis, which is something that people don't really realize goes on with bipolar disorder. It is characterized by impulsivity. The mania portion is impulsivity, pressured speech, agitation. So sometimes it feels like people are moving slowly, but we're actually moving really fast and we can't see that it's happening. We have increased energy, decreased need for sleep, and this can actually last for months at a time. There have been nights where I don't sleep at all, and I will spend the next day cleaning my entire house. So this is that's one of the things that happens. And then after this episode is over, it is followed by a depressive episode, which is characterized by having feelings of worthlessness, lethargy. You sleep all the time, and an uncommon symptom or something that people wouldn't normally think about is having body aches or headaches or sensitivity to light and things like that. The second type, people think that it's less severe, but it's actually not. I actually don't believe I would be able to handle this as well, but it is bipolar 2, and it's characterized by hypomania, which is a lesser form of mania. It's not as up, you could say. It is that lasts for about a week, and then the depression lasts for longer periods of time, and it's usually more severe. And then another thing that happens when you are depressed is you can have psychomotor depression, which means you move really slowly. It's the opposite of mania. You're not moving quickly, you're moving very slowly. And time goes by really fast. So the third type is cyclothymia. This is characterized by periods of less severe hypomania and depression, but they kind of move like this. They go back and forth all the time. It's basically like a constant thing that happens to these people. And then In all of this, you can have a mixed episode, which means you have mania and depression at the same time, which sounds very confusing, I understand. But basically, you have symptoms where you're having increased energy, but you also feel worthless, just as an example. Um, my experience, I have had psychosis, which is where you can have hallucinations, and they can be tactile, auditory, or visual, which means you can feel things that aren't there, you can hear things that aren't there, and you can see things that aren't there. And there are also delusions involved sometimes. So, the main point that I'm trying to get across is that these are very tricky to diagnose and treat, and sometimes it's not very well understood. So, whenever you see somebody with these symptoms, just try to be understanding and be there for your loved one, because all we really need is acceptance and love. And I think it just goes from there. I hope y'all have a good night.